If you ask anyone who went to college more than a decade ago what they paid, they'll probably squint a little, look up at the ceiling, and say something like, way less than what kids pay now. And honestly, that's not even an exaggeration. It's the reality. College has always been expensive, but in the last 10 years, something changed. Something big. It didn't just rise a little. It didn't just adjust for inflation. It ballooned. It stretched. It quietly crept into a category that feels less like an education and more like a mortgage. So today, let's break down one simple question. How much does college cost now compared to 10 years ago? And more importantly, how did we get here? Because the numbers tell one story. But the experiences, they tell an even bigger one. 10 years ago, around 2015, college was expensive, sure, but it was still within reach for a lot of families. The average cost of a 4-year public college was already high, but it wasn't as terrifying as it sounds today. Tuition was climbing slowly, steadily, like someone adjusting a dimmer switch a little higher each year. Students took out loans. Parents tightened budgets. But overall, the system still felt manageable. Today, the dimmer switch broke, and now we're sitting under a spotlight that feels blinding. The cost of tuition at many colleges didn't just increase, it jumped. Some schools raised prices by 20%, others by 40%. Some private colleges crossed the line into $80,000 a year territory once you factor in room, board, and fees. Yes, 80,000 for a single year. And the wildest part is that many students don't even blink at that number anymore. Not because they can afford it, but because the entire system normalized it. 10 years ago, you could still work a part-time job and realistically cover a decent chunk of tuition. Today, a part-time job might not even cover textbooks. Actual textbooks. Paper and glue. The stuff you might not even use again after the semester ends. And it's not just tuition. Everything surrounding college mutated too. Dorm prices went up. Meal plans got more expensive. Campus fees multiplied like someone found a duplicate button and kept pressing it. You're not just paying for classes anymore. You're paying for recreation centres, digital access fees, technology fees, student activity fees, parking permits, late submission fees, and a long list of charges that look like someone in the finance office gets paid by the number of line items they create. 10 years ago, these fees existed, but they weren't built into an ecosystem that feels like every single inch of campus costs money just to breathe near it. And because of this, student debt didn't just go up. It transformed into this generational shadow that follows people into their 30s, their 40s, sometimes even their 50s. The average student debt today is significantly higher than it was in 2015. And the number of students taking out large loans? That number skyrocketed too. 10 years ago, owing $20,000 after college felt like a lot. Today, $20,000 feels like a light appetizer before the main course of a $60,000 or $90,000 bill. And while college became more expensive, something else didn't grow at the same speed. Starting salaries. A degree still opens doors, but the financial runway after graduation isn't any longer than it was 10 years ago. If anything, it's shorter, because graduates today step into adulthood carrying a weight that students 10 years ago felt. But not to this level. And here's the part that really hits. The price of college climbed dramatically, but the experience didn't change as dramatically as the cost did. A lecture hall from 2015 and a lecture hall today. Pretty similar. A professor writing on a whiteboard in 2015 and one doing it today. Pretty identical. The education didn't double in quality, but in many places, the price nearly did. So now we're staring at this giant question. What exactly are we paying for? Is it the education? The brand name? The facilities? The degree itself? Or the promise of future income? And that question becomes even more complicated when you compare traditional degrees to the rise of alternatives. Boot camps, online programs, certificate paths. options that didn't exist at this scale 10 years ago. And that's where things get interesting, because the question isn't just how much college costs now, but whether the cost still matches the value people expect. Because once you start asking whether the cost still matches the value, you open a door that the entire education system has been trying not to look directly at. 10 years ago, the value of a college degree felt unquestioned. It was the default path, the safe path, the socially approved path. A step you took not because you wanted to be in debt, but because it felt like the only real ticket into adulthood. Today, that certainty has cracks. Not because education isn't important, it absolutely is. But because the price of the ticket changed so drastically that people are starting to ask if the ride is still worth it. And honestly, that's a fair question. Because college used to promise something simple. You pay now, you succeed later. But in 2025, the conversation sounds more like, you pay a lot now, and hopefully things work out later. That, hopefully, is the part that feels new. 10 years ago, you didn't need to calculate the ROI of a bachelor's degree as if you were evaluating a rental property. Today, that's exactly what students and parents are doing. They're running spreadsheets. They're comparing majors. They're calculating lifetime earnings. They're asking whether a $200,000 degree will actually give a $200,000 advantage. Because the truth is, not all degrees age the same. Some careers justified the rising cost. Others didn't keep up. 10 years ago, a business degree felt like a golden ticket. Engineering guaranteed a strong salary. Nursing gave security. Tech roles exploded. But now we're in a world where alternative pathways compete directly with college, sometimes offering faster training, lower cost, and jobs that pay just as much. And that shift didn't happen gradually. It happened fast. Boot camps grew. Online certifications became mainstream. Self-taught developers started landing six-figure roles. Remote work expanded the job pool. AI tools made learning accessible to anyone with a laptop. And suddenly, the value of a degree stopped being automatic. It became conditional. Conditional on the major. Conditional on the school. Conditional on the student's goals. Conditional on the job market waiting on the other side. But here's the twist. No one likes to admit, college didn't get more expensive because the education got better. It got more expensive because the business model of college changed. 10 years ago, schools were already building nicer gyms, more luxurious dorms, bigger student centres. But today, the competition for students transformed campuses into something closer to resorts than educational institutions. Better buildings, bigger branding, flashier amenities, all adding to the cost without necessarily adding to the learning. And students, they're the ones paying that bill long after graduation. But college isn't just about money, there's something intangible in it too. A sense of identity, a network, a community, a chapter of life people still want to experience. Which is why the decision today feels so complicated. Because the emotional value stayed the same, but the financial reality changed dramatically. And that gap between what college feels like and what college costs is where today's biggest tension lives. 10 years ago, students worried about passing finals. Today, they worry about whether they'll be paying for those finals until they're 40. 10 years ago, choosing a major felt exciting. Today, it feels strategic, almost tactical, like a chess move that could determine your financial health for decades. And with AI accelerating faster than schools can update their curriculum, there's a growing fear that students may graduate into a world where their skills are already outdated. So now we're left with this messy, complicated truth. College is more expensive than ever. The debt is heavier. The pressure is higher. The alternatives are louder. And the question of value is more important than at any point in the last 50 years. But maybe the bigger question isn't just how much does college cost now? Maybe the bigger question is, what is the future of college worth? Because if prices keep rising and alternatives keep getting stronger, we might be looking at a world where the meaning of a degree changes completely. And that future is coming faster than anyone expected.